Hey there, welcome back to another week of Cooper's Virtual Cooking Club. This week we have a 3-course meal for the first time, so I'm really excited for this. Before we go through the ingredients and to start, I think it would be great, given what's going on in the world right now and our smaller world, that we just take a deep breath and it's all going to be good, and we should be thankful for all that we have. So let's take a deep breath together. 1, 2, 3, in through the nose, out through the mouth. Okay, so let's get started. So what we're gonna need for our first course is a few avocados. So I have 3 avocados right here. You can use 2. Red onion, tomato, half a lemon, and some cloves of garlic. Additionally, I have some spices over here, some salt and pepper. So a really cool trick to tell if your avocados are ready or not, which is the biggest problem with avocados, is you never know when they're ready. So you see the avocado has a little bit of a stem sometimes, so you take off that stem and it's green, that means it's great, it's good to go. If it's a little bit brown like mine is, that means you're gonna have to scoop out a little bit of that part that's not so good, okay? So just tip in terms of figuring out if your avocado is ready. Additionally, in order to get your avocado to get ready faster, if your avocado is like hard and green and like these are darker, these are ready done, but if your avocado is not ready yet and it feels like a bowling ball, then what you can do is you can ripen it faster by putting it next to bananas or pineapple. Those are fruits that will help it ripen more quickly. Okay, so let's get started. So I'm gonna put my other vegetables to the side for now. So we're gonna start with our avocado. So I like to go just right down the middle with a good knife. You can put it down and just rotate the avocado and just keep twisting it. See that? So mine has a little bit of brown spot, but that's okay because what we're gonna do is we're gonna use our spoon over here to just scoop around that. Also, that's why we have a lemon here. Lemons help preserve your guacamole. So let's just scoop that out. So you just stick your spoon right in. I'm just gonna take out this part that's not so good. You just put your spoon right in and just go to the bottom of the avocado and just scoop out like you're scooping out some ice cream. I have a bowl over here, so I'm just gonna put that in there. And a cool trick to take out your pit is if you have a good knife, you can just stick it in there and push it out. Okay, so same thing on the other half. So you just use your spoon like an ice cream scooper almost. And make sure you get all that out, even at the part of the skin. Okay, so now that my avocado is all cut up, it's in nice half pieces over there. Let's get started with our additions to the guacamole. So I have a plum tomato right here. I just rinsed it off. Make sure you always wash your vegetables that you're not going to be peeling. So I'm just going to take the top off right there. So it looks like that, and then I'm going to take the bottom off, and we're going to go right down the middle with it, okay? When you're cutting a tomato, make sure you have a good knife because otherwise the water is going to go all over and the seeds and everything. So make sure you have a good knife that's preferably if it's serrated. You see how this one has a little bit small serrations over there? That's what would work best with this. So I'm going to cut it up into quarters and then I'm going to cut it up once more. Okay, so you see quarters means that we have 4 pieces of it. So you go in the half on one side and then you go in half on the other side. So you got 4 right there. Okay. Next, we're just going to go down the line with this. Nice and easy. And you can just toss those into your bowl. Okay, so next we have our red onion. So the red onion we cut up the same way that we cut up the yellow onion like we did a few weeks ago. So the red onion has this stem part too and this bottom button. So let's take off those 2. Also, it's got same thing with that skin that you gotta peel off. So just take out that skin. So you're just going to take that top layer off first, and then that bottom button layer. Okay, so you see we took these two pieces off, and then we're going to take our knife, we're going to run it across here. So you make a small little indent, and then you can peel away those layers, just like that. Okay, I'm only going to use half the red onion for this because I'm going to use the other half for our main, so stay tuned for that. So I'm only going to cut half of it, okay? So I'm going to leave half of it to the side, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the onion this way, okay? And then I'm just going to make a few small cuts so then I can go down it and make it into smaller pieces so that it'll... You don't want the pieces to be too big in your guacamole because otherwise that onion really is strong. Okay, so you're just going to kind of almost like shred it into small little pieces. Be very careful with this because it's very easy to let that knife slip. So if you ever need help with this or you want to skip this step and you don't like onions, by all means. But just make sure to communicate that. Okay, so we're going to put our onions in here. And then, if you want, you don't need to, I like to add a clove of garlic. So garlic is very interesting to cut up. I got it in one of those clear plastic containers. So garlic's very interesting to cut up because no two pieces of garlic are like the same shape really, so it's hard to figure out exactly how to cut it up. So what I like to do with it is, I like to flatten it. So what you do is you take your knife, you put it down, and then you take your palm and you just kind of press until you hear that crack. You see that crack? So now the garlic is flat, so it's much easier to cut up. So then what you do with your knife is you just run it along slowly, but in consistent strokes. Just like that. So run it along once, and then a second time the opposite direction, okay? So this way you have small little garlic pieces, okay? Because same thing with the garlic. You don't want too big of pieces in there because then people are going to end up having a nice big chunk of garlic and sometimes it's too strong. Not everyone loves it. Okay, so now that that's in there, we have our half a lemon. So what I like to do with the lemon is first I like to try and pick out any seeds if I see them, because also you don't want anyone having those. Okay, obviously if I had a lemon squeezer that would help do that trick, but right now I don't. So, and no one wants to go to the grocery store. So, okay, so we took out our lemon seeds. So now you just squeeze out that lemon right above. Okay. See, the citrus will preserve the guacamole for a few days extra. Okay. I found an extra seed. Look at that. Okay, so now I have my spoon and my fork. So my fork is really just to kind of start pressing those pieces of the avocado in there into, like, flattening them out because they're big halves. You can do this before you add anything else. I think maybe I should have done that, but it's okay. It's all going to come out the same anyway. So you just want to press that down. So this way you have a nice smooth texture on the guacamole. You can have this right now, or you can refrigerate it and serve it later. If you refrigerate it, make sure you put it in a bowl or an airtight plastic container that you can cover, because as soon as kind of like the oxygen really hits it, the top layer is going to end up turning brown, which we don't want. So either eat it now or make sure you put it in the fridge. Okay, welcome back. So next up, we're going to have our main. So I said in the recipe list that you should be having some cans of tuna fish, which is the preferable route, which is the way I'm doing it today. But this recipe can be used for ground turkey, ground beef, ground chicken, ground veal, ground lamb, you name it, if you're not a tuna fish guy. I personally, every now and then, I get a craving for some tuna fish. Also, it's really easy. with this time of year, with everything going on and the supermarket's all crazy and no one wanting to go out, tuna fish is a staple in most people's houses and they have it in their pantry. So I figured let's work with what we have. So these are some awesome tuna patties that are really high in protein, they're low in carbohydrates, they're really filling, and they're easy to make. And so let's get into it. Okay, so some of the ingredients that I said, you need obviously some cans of tuna fish. I'm using breadcrumbs here. These are gluten-free. Happens to be, I actually make these, so maybe you guys will try them. No pressure. Some mustard for some flavor, some mayonnaise. So if you're using the ground beef or ground chicken or ground turkey and not the tuna fish recipe, I don't think you need as much mayonnaise. That's just my opinion. A few eggs. So depending on how much you're making, you need more eggs. So I'm making 4 cans right here, as you see. So I might need 2 eggs. We'll see as it goes. And then some basic salt and pepper seasonings. So yeah, let's get started. So first thing is you're going to start with your protein. So whether you're opening up your package of ground turkey or you're opening up your package of ground chicken, whatever it is, I'm opening up my tuna fish. So what I like about these cans is that it's just a snap off. So you just pull it off and then you drain it out. If you're using one that needs a can opener and you are not so comfortable with using a can opener, make sure you ask someone for help. It's really easy to get hurt with a can opener if you don't know how to do it. So make sure to, yeah. So let's just get into it. So there's a pull tab right here. Just pull it right up. Just be careful. You don't want to get cut on this. And then I'm just going to drain out my tuna. Some sorts. I also have a cutting board here because I'm going to put in my other half of a red onion that I used from the guacamole. I'm going to put that in these burgers. That is a great addition, but listen, whatever floats your boat. I also have some cubes of garlic over here. Also, your oven should be preheating to 350 degrees. It can be a little bit hotter than that if you want to cook it a little quicker or crispier burgers. Okay. I also have a baking sheet right here, like usual, with parchment paper. I suggest lining it with that and then also putting some spray. I'm actually going to take out my spray right now. Okay, so I'm going to coat my parchment paper in some olive oil spray just so I don't forget. Okay, so I'm going to drain the rest of these tunas and we'll get right into it. My tuna's all drained. You're going to want to use a fork to just kind of like break it up. See, usually tuna in a can comes in like big pieces, so you're going to want to just mash it up. Okay, so next I'm going to take a scoop of mayonnaise. I'm using an avocado oil mayonnaise because I just like them and that's what's around my house. You can use any kind of mayonnaise. This is also a great recipe for Pesach because all these ingredients you can find usually around Pesach, and even at Pesach mustard. In my opinion, it's kind of gross, so you can use a substitute for that, like hot sauce or even just seasonings will replace that taste of mustard. Same thing with breadcrumbs. They have kosher Pesach breadcrumbs, mayonnaise too. So I think this is a really great recipe that you can use for Chol Hamoed or, even for Yom Tov itself. So yeah, just a tip. So I'm just going to take a nice spoonful of mayonnaise. The more cans of tuna fish you have, the more mayonnaise you may need. Just get that right into there. And then I'm going to crack 2 eggs. Cracking 2 eggs because I have 4 cans of tuna fish and I think that's a fair amount for 2 eggs. Okay, so I'm going to use the side of the bowl to crack it, and then I'm going to use the cup over here to make sure there's no blood spots. Okay, now I'm going to pour in a few squirts of mustard. And then I'm going to put in probably about a cup worth of breadcrumbs. Let's measure it out. So I got a Pyrex right here just to measure it out. Okay. And then let's mix all that together, and then we'll get our vegetables in there, okay? I'm using my gloves for this. You can use a big spoon if you have, but gloves it is for me. Okay, so I have my knife ready, my red onion over here. It's only a half, so this is how we're gonna do it. So you're gonna go down the line and just make a few. You don't need to cut fully, because what we're going to do is we're just going to end up going the opposite way. So you want to keep the onion kind of in form. So you see how I made those cuts over there? So then we're going to use those, and then we're just going to go down in the opposite direction along those lines. This way you get smaller pieces out of the onion without having to go through each thing multiple times. Garlic clove, if you didn't watch the first half of the video, I'll go through it pretty quickly. So, a thing I like to do is I like to flatten this clove of garlic. So in order to do that, you lay your knife down like that, point is facing that way, and you just use your palm. Palm has a lot of strength, so you just push down on it. Don't be near the tip, not safe. You want to be towards the beginning of the knife. You just push down and you'll hear like a little bit of a crack almost. So then you flatten your garlic, and you're just going to want to make some small cuts. Not all the way through, just up and down, nice and easy. Kind of like a machine going from back and forth. And then you're going to want to go in the opposite direction to make even smaller pieces, okay? And then you just throw those in and then mix them around. It'll give it some nice flavor. And hey, maybe someone will end up being surprised that there's some garlic pieces in there. That's why I put them in small pieces. This way, people don't take a bite and go, the heck? Okay. So now our mixture is nice and complete. So let's form some patties. Okay. So let's go through this. So what I like to do is I like to take a nice spoonful of our mixture and just put it in my hand, and then use the opposite hand to form a nice patty. You don't want these to be too thick because it's going to take a long time to bake, and we are hungry, so we don't want that. So you don't want your pieces to be too big, okay? So just form, and if you see there's like a big piece of onion, you can take that out and chop it up if you want. I will not, because I'm really hungry and want to see these done already. Okay, so just like that, just flatten it with your other fingers. This is a pretty big piece, so might take a little bit longer to cook. Another trick you can do is you can add a little bit of olive oil on the mixture itself. I didn't because my hands are all covered in tuna fish already, but you totally can, and that will help give them a nice color when they come out of that oven. When you're placing your patties down, you want to make sure that there's space in between them, because if they're on top of each other, they're not going to cook. And if you need a second baking sheet for this, well, then get a second baking sheet, because you don't want these to just sit in that oven forever. And then what ends up happening is that these are going to be put in the oven at 350. Make sure you get your oven mitts ready for that, and they should bake for about 35 to 40 minutes. Really just depends on the size of your patties and how thick they are. But last time I made these, they were in the oven for a good like 40 minutes. Um, but you know, everyone's is different. Just keep an eye on it. Once you see the top of that really getting like crispy almost and burnt, I would pull them out because you don't want the tuna to dry out. It's not something we want. Okay, so grab your oven mitts and let's pop this in the oven, and we'll be back with dessert and prepping for that. That should be exciting. Going in. Butter. I'm using an unsalted peanut butter that's just peanuts. You can use your Skippy or your Jif if you want, but I'm just using plain peanut butter. Next is you're going to need some honey. So this is what we got in the Cooper house, some raw honey, and you're going to need an egg. Okay? So you're going to need a cup of peanut butter, a fourth of a cup of honey. If you like it sweeter, you can use a half of a cup. You can use honey, maple syrup, or sugar if you want, but I'm using honey today. What's really good is I'm using a food processor to kind of blend everything together. You can use a blender, or you can even use one of those cake mixers, but I didn't have one of those, so I had a food processor here. Also, what's great is if you have an ice cream scooper, so that this way once it's pulsed out, you can kind of just scoop it out and put it on our favorite thing, a baking sheet. So this baking sheet, I don't think you need to put like oil on it. If you're seeing it sticks, then maybe put some oil on it, but I've made this before and I don't think you need it. Okay, so first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna pour our peanut butter into 1 cup. So we got our cup of peanut butter here. What happened was I ended up running out of peanut butter. I thought I had more than I had, but I ended up combining it with almond butter, which is actually a really good lesson for this recipe. You can use any kind of ground nut butter or seed butter if you want. This is also a great recipe for Pesach. You can use, if you keep kidneys, you can use sunflower seed butter, or you can use cashew butter, which I see in the stores, or one of my favorites, almond butter. I've made this recipe with almond butter before, and it works out great. So you're going to want to make sure you have a cup of that, and you can use a spoon kind of just to stir it around a little bit, so that this way you make sure that it's kind of consistent and even, and that you're able to pour it out into your food processor. So you have your cup of nut butter of your choice. And if there is a nut allergy, you can use soy butter or cookie butter. I know Lotus makes a really good cookie butter. Next is our egg. So you want to crack it into here. Make sure we don't get that shell in there. All right, we're good. Okay, you can just mix that up. Spoon. And then your honey. So you're going to want to use 1/4 cup of honey, like I said. You can use maple syrup if you want, or sugar, whatever works for you. Okay, so we have all of our ingredients ready. So now we're going to put it in the food processor, or if you put it in a blender, whatever you're using, you're going to want to pulse it kind of for only a few seconds for everything to kind of just come together. So I'm going to do that, and we'll show you what it looks like, and then we will scoop some out and put it on our baking sheet and then bake it in the oven. Your oven should be at 350. It's not going to cook long, but we got to make sure that it cooks all the way because we got eggs in there. So let's do it. Okay, so our mixture has been pulsed. So it's kind of weird looking, right? So we're gonna use a scooper, an ice cream scooper, and we're just gonna put a piece right down. You can use a spoon to kind of help. Make sure everything is kind of mixed in nicely. And then I'm gonna use a fork to just press those cookies out, okay? Thank you again to Yachad Gordon for recommending this recipe. Excited to see how these come out. Okay. I'm not a baker, but I like to eat, so let's make sure these are. So you see, use the back of the fork, or you can use it like that. Just want to press them into relatively even pieces, so this way some of them don't burn and stuff like that. If it sticks to the fork, like just happened, you can use your hand to kind of just leverage that off. And don't press it too hard. Okay. Look at these. I'm excited to eat these. Okay, so let's put these in the oven. So these are going to go in the oven at 350 for about 8 to 10 minutes. Keep an eye on them. These might cook quicker, might cook slower, but definitely between the 8th minute and the 10th minute, you should be keeping an eye on it. Once you see it start to brown up, you can take them out and enjoy. Okay, so let's put them in the oven. I almost forgot my oven mitts. And it's possible that these will finish before our tuna burgers. So if these do, I will take these out and show you what they look like. But see you soon. Hey guys, so our 3-course meal is complete. So we have our guacamole over here, which we made. We have our tuna patties, which just came out of the oven, so they're still kind of hot. So I'm going to show you those. Look at those. They were probably in the oven for about 35 minutes. And then we have our cookies, which aren't as hot. Those were in the oven for about probably 10 minutes. So here's your 3-course meal, and I hope you join us next week. Have a good one.